All right, now I'm joined now by Professor Iwasalami, Director Center for FinTech, University of East London. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we've seen a lot of stories happening around Nigeria and cryptocurrency. And of course, recently we have a ruling by the Federal High Court in Abuja where crypto trading company official, Grado Limited to be precise, was actually convicted for conducting USDT-to-Naira transactions without the required banking license. Now, talk to us. What do you think this is? Is this the case of vindication of the federal government, crackdown on crypto exchanges in the country? Is that what it is right now? Like the federal government has been able to actually prove to all of us that, you know what, I was saying this all along and, I've been right all along. What's your thought? Professor Iwa, I don't know, maybe you need to unmute. I can't hear you.
Apologies. So this just shows that the authorities are willing basically to follow through their, I would say, seriousness about really coming down heavily on crypto assets exchanges that are not complying with regulation. And this just evidences that. And therefore, this conviction, I'd say, of this crypto asset, virtual asset service provider is just, just is basically to that effect that if they're not able to comply, particularly with the AML KYC provisions that crypto asset exchanges are meant to be complying with, then they would fall foul of the regulations and therefore be brought to justice. And in this instance, beyond actually KYC AML requirements, I think it's a question of the exchange also engaging in prohibited USDT conversions to the Naira, which they didn't actually have the license to do. And so under the current Securities and Exchange regulations, which covers how crypto asset exchanges exchange crypto assets and in the way that they issue them as well, and also in the way that these are custodied, those requirements haven't granted a license for crypto asset exchanges to engage in foreign exchange, I'd say, activities, which are granted to, dealers who would usually have a license to engage in the Nigerian autonomous foreign exchange market. And because they didn't have that license to engage in this sort of activities for these huge amounts of transactions that, of course, went reported to the Financial Intelligence Unit, Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, they were brought under, I'd say they were brought under the remit of the law.
All right, so this is just two in one, and I hope that we'll be able to answer that in about 30 seconds. Now, I'd like you to talk to us about what's obtainable in other climes. I mean, do exchanges conduct currency conversions or USDT to local currency transactions? And also, would you make a case for crypto exchanges to be given banking licenses, or you would rather we maintain the status quo?
So yes, actually, other exchanges, crypto asset exchanges across the world, whether it's your Binance, your Coinbase, and the others, can actually engage in converting crypto assets to local currencies. I mean, that's part of what they do. It's well known, well established, and I think, as I've said here once before, there hasn't really been a case in countries that those transactions actually devalue national currencies. The case of Nigeria, in the case of Nigeria, there's a uniqueness there. So in terms of your second question about whether or not crypto asset exchanges should be granted a banking license, it's just not the sort of thing that should happen, because you have banking regulation that's totally separate from digital assets regulation, totally separate from capital markets and securities regulation. For us to grant a banking license a banking license to any financial institution or any institution engaged in financial activities, we're basically saying they're operating as a bank, which is basically that they, as part of what they do, they take deposit, they give loans, and every other thing that goes with banking. And the essence of regulating banks is to ensure that we have financial stability. totally different from transactions that happen on crypto asset exchanges or capital markets type transactions, which fundamentally is to protect investors, retail investors, to ensure that there's transparency in
All
those
right.
markets, and also that we have market integrity.
All
Again,
right.
part of which
Professor, I'm
includes
afraid we
ensuring
need to go. It's already time. Thank you so much for sharing all this with us. I hope that we'll have to talk about this some other time. Thank you, Professor Iwasalami, Director, Center for FinTech, University of East London, for your time on the show today.
Thank you for having me.